January 18, 1943, we're on the Leningrad front. Somewhere near MGA, snow drifts across a shattered forest. Settling silently on the wreckage of burnt-out T-34s, the cold here isn't just a temperature, it's a presence. It gnaws at your fingertips, bites through layers of wool, and clings to your lungs with every single breath. But tonight, something else hangs in the air, a sound. A vibration. It's a low metallic growl creeping through the trees. A Soviet infantryman, Sergeant Mikhail Voronov, freezes mid-stride. At first he thinks it's thunder. But thunder doesn't shake the ground like this. Thunder doesn't echo like steel plates grinding over ice. Then a silhouette appears slow, deliberate, and seemingly unstoppable. It's a Panzer Kampfwagen V, the Tiger. Its massive turret sweeps left and right, the long barrel of its 88mm gun gleaming under the moonlight. You can almost feel its weight, 57 tons of armor, confidence, and cruelty rumbling through the snow as if the laws of nature simply don't apply. Mikhail has heard the stories. All the Soviet soldiers have. Tales whispered around trench fires, stories of shells bouncing off its front armor like pebbles thrown against an anvil. Of entire platoons being erased in seconds. Of commanders panicking as this giant carved open the Eastern Front. But hearing stories is one thing. Watching a Tiger advance toward you is something else entirely. It's a primal, gut-wrenching fear. A nearby T-34 fires. The shell slams into the Tiger's glacis plate. Sparks fly, metal screams, but the tank doesn't stop, doesn't even flinch, just keeps coming, slow and calm. Like a predator enjoying the hunt, knowing its prey has nowhere to run. Inside the Tiger, Lieutenant Otto Karius gives a short, satisfied nod. He's seen this before. Soviet tank crews firing in desperation, then freezing in utter disbelief when their shots just ricochet off his armor. He calls out the range to his gunner. The gunner fires. The T-34 simply vanishes in a plume of black smoke and fire. Mikhail ducks as shrapnel whistles past his head. He presses his face into the snow, his heart hammering against his ribs, every instinct screaming at him to run. But where do you run from something that can kill you from a mile away? Across the sector, Soviet commanders are radioing frantically for support, their voices ragged with desperation. For the first time in months, fear outweighs their numerical advantage. Because it's becoming painfully clear that the Red Army's most common tank, the T-34, is no match for this steel monster. Not at this distance, not at this angle. Not tonight. But as the Tiger roars deeper into the Soviet lines, something else begins to move. Something hidden in the shadows. Something the Germans have not yet encountered. It's a Soviet weapon designed specifically to hunt the hunters. A machine built around a single, brutal idea: kill the Tiger or die trying. And it's about to roll onto the battlefield. The time is 2:40 a.m., just south of Sinyavino, on the Leningrad front. The blizzard thickens. Snow whips across the battlefield in violent spirals, masking shapes, swallowing sound. For a moment, even the Tiger disappears behind the white curtain of the Storm's engine. Growl reduced to a muted tremor beneath the howling wind. Then another vibration rises. Lower, heavier, different from a tree line half a kilometer away. A new silhouette emerges. It's boxy, brutal, and unmistakably Soviet. Its engine coughs once, then settles into a steady, menacing rumble. Is it a KV-1S? No, the gun is longer. The turret is different. It has a leaner, more predatory stance. This is no standard tank. This is the Red Army's answer to the Tiger. This is the Su-152, nicknamed Zevero Boy, the Beast Slayer. Inside the assault gun, Commander Ivan Lobanov wipes frost from the periscope. His crew is tense, every breath crystallizing in the frigid air. They've trained for this exact moment, rehearsed it on chalkboards and frozen fields. But no one truly believes it until they see it with their own eyes. A Tiger, exposed, advancing straight toward them. The Su-152 parks behind the ruins of a smashed farmhouse. It's gunned the monstrous 152mm ML-1E howitzer jesting millimeter by millimeter. It moves slowly, painfully slow. This weapon was built for destroying bunkers and fortifications, not for dueling with tanks. But at the right range, at the right angle, it can destroy anything that moves. Range 900 meters. The gunner whispers, his voice tight. Ivan's voice is steady. He gives the order. Fire. The shot erupts like a clap of thunder. Not the crisp crack of a tank gun. This is deeper, heavier, the kind of sound you feel in your chest. The massive shell arcs across the field, trailing smoke through the storm. It hits the Tiger's frontal armor with the force of a collapsing building. The explosion lights up the snow in a blinding flash. Flames burst from the turret hatches. The steel giant that had terrified entire battalions suddenly lurches, stops, and then collapses into the frozen mud. Thick black smoke pouring from its seams. Inside the Su-152, no one speaks for several seconds. The silence is deafening. Then, a single breath escapes. A laugh. Disbelieving, relieved, alive, because the myth has just cracked. The invincible Tiger isn't invincible. Not anymore. Across the sector, Soviet radio operators begin transmitting the news, their voices trembling with adrenaline. The Beast Slayer got one. 2 minutes later, another message crackles through. Another Tiger sighted. It's preparing to fire. The Germans hear it too. In his command tank, Otto Carius slams his fist against the hatch as his radios erupt with frantic, panicked reports. Tigers knocked out by a gun they underestimated. A weapon they thought was too bulky, too slow, too crude to be a real threat. But the Soviets didn't need speed. They needed power. Enough raw, concussive power to turn steel monsters into scrap metal. And on this night, deep in the snowbound ruins east of Leningrad, the balance of fear begins to shift. But Ivan Lobanov and his crew have no time to celebrate, because the storm is clearing. Something larger, something far more dangerous is moving in the fog beyond the burning Tiger. A shape they can't yet identify. A sound they've never heard before. And it's coming straight for them. A white curtain hiding the horrors of the battlefield. But then, as if a switch has been flipped, the wind dies. The snow thins. A sliver of moon breaks through the clouds, illuminating a scene straight out of a nightmare. This isn't a battlefield. It's a graveyard. Scorched tanks, their steel holes peeled open like tin cans. Twisted trees, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. And a thick, oily smoke that clings to the frozen ground, refusing to dissipate. Inside the cramped metallic gut of an Su-152 self-propelled gun, the crew is on edge. Commander Ivan Lobanov presses his face against the cold steel of the periscope. His breath fogs the lens. He wipes it away, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape. Something feels wrong. The silence that has replaced the storm is unnatural, heavier, more threatening than the wind ever was. It's the kind of quiet that precedes a scream. Then he hears it. A sound that cuts through the stillness. A deep, resonant thud. And then another. It's a slow, rhythmic cadence, like something impossibly heavy is moving out there. It's the sound of tracks on frozen earth. But it's deeper, more powerful than the familiar growl of a Tiger tank. It sounds like a hammer striking a colossal cathedral bell. The gunner, a young man no older than 20, whispers, his voice trembling slightly. That's no Panzer IV. Ivan doesn't take his eyes off the periscope. He gives a single sharp nod. He says, his own voice tight. It's bigger. Through the lingering haze and drifting smoke, a shape begins to materialize. At first, it's just a shadow, a darker patch against the gray snow. But as it draws closer, its form becomes terrifyingly clear. The hull is wider, its shoulders broader than any tank they've ever faced. The turret isn't a turret at all. It looks like a single solid block of iron carved from a mountain. This isn't a Tiger. It's too early for the Tiger too. The Königsdagger, that monster hasn't been born yet. Then Ivan sees the markings. Crude whitewashed stripes painted over the dark German gray. It's an elongated hull that seems to stretch on forever. And heavy, thick armored skirts hanging on the sides, designed to detonate anti-tank rounds before they can even touch the main hull. It's a Sturmtiger. The name sends a jolt of pure ice through Ivan's veins. He's only ever seen it in intelligence briefings, crude drawings sketched from horrified eyewitness accounts. A 68-ton assault monster. A fortress on tracks. This beast wasn't designed to hunt other tanks. It was designed to erase entire city blocks, to turn fortified bunkers into dust and rubble. And it achieves this with a weapon that defies belief. Instead of a long 88mm cannon, it carries the infamous 308mm rocket mortar, a weapon that fires shells the size of oil drums. Shells packed with enough high explosive to level a building. At this distance, a direct hit wouldn't just destroy their Su-152. It would vaporize it, turning the 5-man crew into a red mist. Driver. Reverse, Ivan orders, his voice barely a whisper. Slowly. Get us behind that ridge, but the driver doesn't respond. He's frozen, his knuckles white as he grips the controls, his eyes wide, staring through his narrow vision slit. He's mesmerized by the sheer scale of the thing approaching them. A medieval siege tower reborn in steel and diesel. The Sturmtiger, indifferent to their presence, pivots on its left track. The ground shudders under its immense weight. Its mortar, impossibly large, obscenely thick, begins to elevate. Swings around, a single, unblinking eye, and points directly at Ivan's position. The moment of silent dread is over. The hunt has begun. You fire before he loads. Ivan snaps, the command cracking like a whip through the steel compartment. Or we die inside this coffin. The loader, a burly Siberian, slams a 152mm high-explosive shell into the breach. The heavy metal clangs shut, the sound echoing in the confined space. The gunner, his gloved hands trembling, frantically spins the wheels to adjust the elevation, trying to draw a bead on the colossal target. The Su-152, nicknamed the Beast Killer by its crews, rocks slightly on its suspension as it settles into a firing position. But the German crew is fast, frighteningly fast. Through the periscope, Ivan sees the Sturmtiger's mortar tube shudder. It's a small, almost imperceptible movement, but he knows exactly what it means. They're chambering around. It's 380mm rocket. They have seconds, maybe less. Fire, Ivan screams. The Su-152 lurches backward with a violent recoil that throws the crew against the walls. A brilliant orange flame erupts from the muzzle, momentarily blinding them. The shell, a monster in its own right, shrieks across the 500 meters of frozen open field. It's a perfect shot. The shell strikes the Sturmtiger's upper hull with a deafening metallic crash. The explosion is immense. A ball of fire and black smoke engulfs the German machine. Shrapnel whistles through the air, and the shockwave hits their Su-152, rattling its bolts and making the whole tank ring like a bell. For a moment, there's only the crackle of fire and the swirling smoke. They did it. They must have. But when the smoke begins to clear, the giant is still there. It's wounded, but it's still standing. The 152mm shell has done horrific damage. It has torn away the side skirts, shattered the tools mounted on the hull, and left a deep, ugly crater in the thick frontal plate. But it hasn't killed the beast. The armor held. And then, the most terrifying thing happens. The Sturmtiger, seemingly unfazed, continues its slow, deliberate rotation. Its mortar, that huge, dark maw of death, continues to swing towards them. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't even slowed down. Inside the Su-152, panic sets in. The loader fumbles for another shell, his hands shaking, sweat pouring down his face, despite the sub-zero temperatures. Curses and prayers fill the cramped steel box. They all know the truth. They fired their best shot, and it wasn't enough. One shot from that mortar, even a near miss, and their bodies will be unrecognizable. Faster, Ivan shouts. His voice raw, but he can hear it. He can hear the thud-thud of the loading mechanism inside the Sturmtiger. It's a sound that seems to grow louder with every passing second. Closer, more final. Single launch. That's all it will take. This is it. This is the end. Then, a voice, sharp and laced with static, bursts through the radio speaker, cutting through the tension. Reinforcements inbound. Do not break contact. Repeat. Hold your position. Ivan swallows a lump of dry fear in his throat. Hold position. Against that, it's a suicide order. But an order is an order. And reinforcements. What reinforcements? They're the only unit for miles. And then he hears it, a new sound. Not from ahead, where the Sturmtiger waits, but from behind them. It's the rumble of multiple engines, growing louder, faster, more aggressive. They're cutting across the frozen marsh, their tracks churning up snow and mud. T-34s, dozens of them. Their iconic silhouettes emerging from the pre-dawn gloom. But they're not alone. There's something else with them. Something new. Something Ivan has only heard rumors about. A secret project whispered about in the barracks. It's a tank, designed with one purpose in mind, to break open the invincible. Its engine has a deeper, more guttural roar than the T-34's, and it's getting closer. The ground begins to tremble, not from the Sturmtiger, but from the approaching salvation. A new beast has entered the graveyard. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the front lines.